this is Charles Scoville, your Golden Harvest agronomist, with a special edition of our Agronomy in Action Focus Friday podcast here on August the 12th. Now, yes, I know it's not Friday, but after taking the week off last week for the Shiawassee County Fair, I had a few things pop up that really needed to be shared. Now, primarily, I'm hearing about Physoderma brown spot in northern Indiana, spider mites here in mid-Michigan, and southern rust in corn in the southern part of the state of Michigan. Now, as far as our weekly report on heat units, I'll get you a full update on this with our normal edition on Friday, but in short, we remain slightly ahead of both last year and the 5-year average for heat unit accumulation in all of Michigan, northern Ohio, and northern Indiana. Now, getting into the reason for our special report today, let's address some of those topics mentioned earlier. Let's start with Physoderma, brown spot, and stalk rot. So, according to Iowa State University, this fungal disease is caused by Physoderma matus and is the only class of fungi that they produce zoospores. These are spores that have a tail and actually swim in free water. So it survives as these sporangia for 2 to 7 years in the soil and crop debris. Now, the sporangia are wind dispersed or even splashed into the whorls of developing corn plants. Now, when the whorls fill with water for an extended period of time due to some excessive rains that we did have or irrigation, the sporangia germinate and produce these zoospores that swim and infect the meristematic tissue of the developing plants. Now, corn is most susceptible to this infection between growth stages V5 and V9. The symptoms of Physoderma brown spot are actually very characteristic. The infected leaves have numerous, very small, round, oval spots that are yellowish to brownish, and they usually occur in bands across the leaf. Now, they also can occur on the stalk and the leaf sheath and even the husks. Now, the symptoms may be confused with things like eye spot or southern rust or purple leaf sheath, so we're looking for that purplish oval spots on the midrib. These purplish oval spots are actually filled with thousands of sporangia, and the infection of nodes 6 and 7, they may also result in some stalk rot. So many fungicides are effective in managing this issue, but the good news is little yield loss has actually been associated with Physoderma, but it is out there. So then on Sunday, I had the chance to walk a soybean field in mid-Michigan that, it was under some severe drought stress. Now, as I pulled up to the field, I noticed those telltale signs of spider mites, with that usual discoloration of the leaves. So, and I tapped the plants on a white sheet of paper, and the mites were plentiful. So the farmer he's now planning on a miticide spray on these acres, but, a good rain over a few days would really do wonders for this and many other fields in the area. Now, finally today, I want to introduce to you the agronomic service representative for Syngenta in Michigan. So Calvin Canfield is here to discuss the southern rust that he found late last week in southern Michigan. Now, Calvin, he's a great resource for crop protection in Michigan, and when he's called me late last week with the find of southern rust, I asked him, hey, can you be on my podcast to get that word out? So, Calvin, welcome, and I just ask you to share with our listeners what you're finding, what's causing this issue this year, and most importantly, what can we do about it?
Yes, thank you, Charles, for having me on. Last week, out scouting some fields, we did see what we suspect to be southern rust. We're sending samples to Michigan State to get confirmation that it is southern rust, but it is very probable when we were sharing pictures with the pathologist over there. So southern rust, it's not very common here in Michigan. It's generally considered a tropical disease, but it does occur across many states in the Midwest and our major corn growing areas. If you're out in the field and you think you're going to see southern rust or compare it to common rust, it they're very similar but different. When you think of common rust, think of ground coarse black pepper on your leaves. They're the pustules that you're going to find on there are a little bit more spread out and they're going to be a lot bigger. Southern rust, think of real fine salt. They're going to be smaller and a lot more dense on your leaf. And when you're looking in your canopy, usually the first symptomologies are going to be found in hot pockets, and it's going to be in the mid to lower canopy where the moisture holds on the longest, all that dew, the humidity is going to be higher in that little microclimate, and it's going to provide a perfect environment for the southern rust to infect the corn. In Michigan, we've had kind of sporadic weather all over the place, but southern rust is going to favor that temperature, anything 80 and above, especially in that 90-degree range that we've been hovering around. So we've had great conditions, unfortunately, for southern rust to thrive. Southern rust, like we said, it was a generally considered a tropical disease, more southern, but it does get blown up. Those spores get blown up from the south. And right now, other states are finding it. There's some hot pockets across Indiana and parts of Illinois. But if you want an up to date county map, check out the Crop Protection Network. They're going to provide the most up to date locations of where there's suspected rust and confirmation of southern rust in the entire United States, and other diseases like tar spot. Always check them out if you're concerned or you think it's close. Southern rust, it because we don't see it every year, not many growers are familiar with it, but it can have really big yield loss potential, especially with an earlier infection time. Anything from tassel to milk stage, if we're seeing southern rust, we really want to consider an application of something with a group 11, one of the strobies. They have excellent control of southern rust. And if you say, I have it in my field, what am I going to do? You can protect the upper part of the canopy because of the southern rust being in the bottom part of the canopy that's not getting a lot of light, not providing a lot of photosynthesis. You don't want it to spread to the upper canopy where a lot of our yield is getting built. So using a fungicide with like I said, a strobe, but I'd really like to see a multiple mode of action product that would go out there and not just target southern rust. It's going to have activity, broad spectrum. We have a lot of ear rots, other yield robbing diseases out there that we're going to need a lot of spectrum for. And contact one of our Syngenta crop protection representatives. They're going to provide one of the best solutions for you, not just for southern rust, but all the other diseases that are out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when I think of southern rust, I always think of that kind of almost bright orangish look that it has versus a little duller look or browner look on the more common rust. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Usually the pustules are a little bit brighter, and if you're out walking, you might see it on your shirt first or your pant legs. You'll see the spores that were on top of the leaf getting onto you. Another characteristic I forgot to mention is southern rust is only on the top part of the leaves, where common rust is going to be on both the upper and lower portion of the leaves. It kind of goes through, and you'll see those rusty pustules on both sides of the leaf.
Oh, interesting. Great advice there. Appreciate that. Hey, as long as I got you on the line here, the other question I'm getting is, we've got some really hot, dry areas in the state right now, and many applications of R1 fungicide went on. We're 21 to 28 days later now, and they're saying, boy, do I spend the money on a second, like an R3 type fungicide treatment with it being hot and dry? I'm just curious on your thoughts there.
Yeah, excellent question, Charles. Thank you for asking. We do see some benefits in the drier weather. If you're using a broad spectrum fungicide, multiple modes of action, we do see some plant health benefits, especially a product with a SDHI mode of action. They're going to provide the plant health benefits. So we know there's a lot of diseases out there that are just nibblers. They're not really going to be big yield robbers, but think of some of these dry environments. Those diseases need moisture, so they're drawing it from the plant. And if we're able to put some chemistry out there that prevents those diseases from robbing that moisture, we're going to be a lot further ahead. The plant health benefits of some of our chemistries that are out there, they do help the plant be more efficient in water use, so they don't lose as much moisture due to evaporation, and we're able to maximize the plant yield potential even in these strenuous weather environments.
Well, I think our corn in some places could definitely use some stress relief out there. So, no, I appreciate that insight there, Calvin. So, as we wrap up this week's special edition of the Agronomy in Action Focus Friday podcast, let's continue to get out there and walk our fields. Don't forget to keep scouting for tar spot while you're checking for your southern rust and even your more typical fungal pathogens such as gray leaf spot and northern corn leaf blight. If you are dry, continue to be on the lookout for spider mites. And then, as with all of these challenges that can each take away our yield potential, make sure we're taking action to fix these issues. This is Charles Scoble, your Golden Harvest agronomist, with your Agronomy in Action Focus Friday. Have a great week.